Welcome to the Rabbi Parrots podcast. I'm super pumped to be here with my man Mordechai Rubinstein, aka Mr. Mort. And you have to say aka because, man's got a name. Uh, you know, I used to have a tough time with people calling me Rabbi, whether they remembered my name or not. I'd be like, my name's Parrots. I don't know, that Rabbi's the title. Maybe that's my brand, maybe Mr. Mort's the brand, but you got a name. You want to be in relationships. You're a relationship dude. So welcome, man. It's great to have you on.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me. Long time.
I'll tell you why the main reason I wanted you on is because we're in the month of Adar. Adar is all about joy. Purim's coming up. It's about joy. And this pandemic started last Purim, essentially, especially in communities that were celebrating Purim. They were like a day late, where everybody else was a day early, the day before Purim. The Jewish community, like, oh, we'll squeeze one more holiday in there. And it was a big mistake. So here it's a full year later and we're in the time we're supposed to be super happy. And I actually think of you. The first thing I always think of is a guy with good vibes and very happy. And so let's start off in the present, man. Are you happy? How are things? How's the year been for you?
It's funny. I look at orange. I look at you in orange, and I don't know much about color theory, but I know what I like. Purple, it's malchus, it's royalty. Makes sense. Purple velvet. I think of a king. Orange, they say if you look at it first thing in the morning, it's supposed to make you happy. I'm
Mm.
looking at you now. It's working just the same as first thing in the morning, but it's really, really true. And when I think about getting dressed sometimes for a few days in a row, sometimes for a few hours. And orange has been really like low key underlying feeling for me. I haven't done it a lot. I have one or two orange jackets. It's not like there are colors that I get into. I'm like, oh, I want to wear all purple. I want to wear all yellow. I've never, I mean, maybe I shouldn't say never. Maybe I have done all orange, but I'm feeling orange lately. And it's not even so much to like, oh, I want to be happy. Let me put orange on. It's not even like, oh, I put the orange on and then I remember I'm happy. It's when I see it on others that I'm like reminded of the power of colors.
Well,
So
I just will add orange. It was just January. I was like, I felt like I needed a color for the year, like something. And I looked in my closet. And I was like, I need a color, and and then I look online and I see this bright orange top, and it comes with matching orange pants, and and I was like, I gotta do it. And everybody who sees me is so happy, and that's the whole point of this outfit. In general, my clothing as a rabbi has evolved to where I realized I need things working for me. Like I don't have anything fancy going on. I don't have a great brand or like this is who I am. And over the years, I've added more and more, let's call it courage, to wear different clothing as a rabbi in order that it does a lot of work. I'm not shaking a woman's hand, but they're like, he's wearing all orange jumpsuit. He's not, he's either getting out of jail or he's happy to see me. He's either way, he's happy to see me. So it's been a huge part of it is that, and I take inspiration from you, man, because you clearly use clothing for joy. It's true you're in fashion, but you're like I love when you always say you're the fashion stylists, because you're basically saying that, like, look, clothing is not, it's, yeah, you're your stylist. Yeah, clothing is not fashion in the same sense of like, where does it go from here? Like, you're gonna keep making up different clothes. Like, what are we doing already? We already figured out comfy, practical, all that stuff. Now it's about personality, connection, individuality, etc. And how's this year been for that? It's such a big part of what you do.
I was just thinking like, you know, I have a feeling like all of us, like, okay, it's winter. What am I really missing this spring? Or at the end of winter, I'll be like, I know what I need next winter. That certain Aran knit cardigan that I craved all winter. Okay, I don't remember to go on eBay during the summer to look for it, or God forbid it towards the end of the winter. But at least I know what I'm lacking and what I'm looking for. Similar with color, I'm like, oh, I'm wearing a ton of purple, and then they announce like Pantone color of the year 0726. I never noticed that until a few years ago when it was like lilac, lavender, and I was like really into purple. People were like, oh, you predicted. Now I'm looking at the orange, and we're talking orange. I'm wondering what is this year. We don't have to Google it now. We're busy. What
Right.
is this year's color? And if it was orange, it'd be great because it makes you happy, blah, blah, blah. But it's funny when I was interviewed I thought I was being interviewed for New York Style. And I didn't read the email real quick. not this one, another Zoom. I didn't read the email real. I read the email super quick. It was New York Magazine. It wasn't about New York style. It was about people that dress supporting New York for whatever. Like they're wearing like a lot of. To me, it means like old Pearl Paint. It's a store that closed on Broughton Canal. It's like old spots that haven't been around, like Essen Bench will they reopen. But that's like real New York merch to me. City Department of Sanitation stuff you can't buy. But I got all excited to talk to the editor about New York style. I'm like, you tell me what New York style is. We all haven't been out in a year. And if you have, I don't want to know you because
Right.
social media, I'm looking at people in Honolulu, everyone's in Miami, everyone's in LA. No one's in Brooklyn in the cold trenches like I am, even though, come on, I know tons of people are. And even though you're in California, Miami doesn't mean you're laying in the beach. Regardless, it's when I first came to walking the streets, taking pictures in the summer because I was away for quarantine for a few months out of town. I looked at somebody really cool. I was like, I was wearing a mask. I can't take pictures of people wearing a mask. Okay, it's a big part of what I do is talk to people in the street, taking pictures. But talking to people on the street, already that's scary. If you're not wearing a mask, I get scared to talk to people on the street, but sometimes I forget and I just start ranting and talking to people and they're spitting in my face, even though, I don't realize. But with the whole street style or looking at how people dress in the streets, I'm more, catching it with my eye because the streets are pretty bare. They're not
Yeah.
naked, but they're pretty bare. So you're seeing more construction workers. Also, I don't know if it's that, because it's winter or it's a darker, colder winter than others, but I'm seeing just a lot more high vis. Maybe there's a lot more construction of the streets. It's funny. I'm looking at your glasses, even though they're not high vis, but with the sweatshirt, it's like, those are the colors you see in the winter that you see in New York. And I like them, the colors that wake you up, vibrant, whatever colors. Even though now over the past few winters, we're seeing more orange down coats and tie-dye and colors that we'd normally see in the summer, I think we're seeing in the winter. And I like that. New York used to be like all black, so this fashion world black. I'm like, for what? And you disappear. All right, it's sneeze, but at the same time, it's almost it doesn't it doesn't wake me up like I want colors to wake me up. I want to walk by you and see a breath of fresh colors. But with masks, it covers so much of your face. You can't tell if someone's smiling. You can't. I took a picture of somebody in passing. They found me on Instagram. They said, "I wish you would have asked." I said, "I always ask. You're like the one person I didn't ask. It was in traffic. I was walking towards you, walking towards me. You want me to delete it? No, no, no. I don't want you to delete it. But you should have asked next time. I'll try and ask." But it's like also you can't even read someone's face. It's not like you can go like this. Like
I feel like you just basically gave a syllabus of like how everyone feels walking on the street for the last year. This certain like disconnect that's happened over there, and
I never thought I'd be checking out other people's masks. As an
right.
accessory. But I'm listening. Yeah.
Well, I mean, listen, you came up with beauty in the everyday uniform as a hashtag, as a thing. It totally represented like a new layer of what you were doing, which was like, it's what is a uniform after all? We grew up in a similar background, going to yeshiva. I always felt that the clothing of the yeshiva or the Hasidic garb was a uniform. Like
Yeah.
where the world is sort of like an active place, and you got to wear your sports clothing or your uniform. This is like how you really figure out what you're about. Like this is how you figure out what the world. It only looks weird to others who are on another team, let's say. But if you're all a construction worker doesn't look at another construction worker's boots and feel weird. They look at the guy wearing a suit and his bally drivers and is like, oh, that guy, how's he walking on the streets of New York? So it's definitely I love the trend of where fashion's going, and I really think you have a huge part in it. I say like you're wearing a tie dye turtleneck. Tie dye, I don't remember it being a major thing as far as fashion goes before you came around. I really don't. And
Not to cut you off, but it's so funny to me that not to cut you off, but I'm going to cut you off. No, that like, I take a lot of pictures, yeah, and I like to document trends and I like to predict trends silently, maybe tweet them, but I don't like to talk about them too much because I'm not some kind of like seeing the future. I don't have any real this, but yeah, we feel things. We know what's coming sometimes in the way of color, fashion, whatever. But it's so funny to just be into what we're into and see it really happen. I will take some credit for the beauty in the everyday because we're watching with Balenciaga, Vetements, with even if not fashion brands, just like commercials. I'm not saying for AT&T or Verizon or Nextel, but like commercials where it's just like regular people. And I think fashion also, it's like instead of $500,000 a day model, I think they can go with like, okay, they're not going to jump to you and I, but like, it's okay to come down a little bit from this like fantasy world that they were living. And yeah, well, I don't know what my point was with that, but yeah. Oh,
Trends, intuition.
yeah, but one of the beauty in the everyday, it's like to me and you, it's like okay, fine. I won't say to you, and I really like that. But to me, it's like it's what I'm feeling right now. We're in kind of dark times. I want to go bright. We're in time where you don't want to look too fancy in a 16-piece suit. So maybe you wear a 3-piece suit. Trying to be a little more sneerish these days. I think, if you're going taking the family skiing in Aspen, maybe only put up one picture, not 17. You
Mm.
know, I think you have to be really mindful. But when to me, you didn't ask, well, what's beauty in the every, me, but what's beauty in the everyday and beauty in the everyday uniform? It's a few things. It's like, yeah, looking at the lady walking down the street in her floral raincoat and it's pouring rain and her bag's getting all wet, but I'm just looking at the flowers in the raincoat. I'm like, it's so beautiful. It's just beauty in the everyday. It doesn't have to be Gucci schmoochy. And the other thing is that you have doctors, lawyers, bankers. These guys are wearing chalk striped suits in the winter, seersucker in the summer. They're wearing Oxford shirts every single day. Same with Yidden, sit in black and white, kapata, fedora. It's so easy, I used to think, as a hustle, just get dressed. Yeah, just pick out your white shirt, pick out your hat. Maybe it's because times have changed, maybe because our brains changed, whatever. But like, to me, that's like beauty in the everyday uniform. Some people think a cop, a FedEx, a firefighter. Sure, there are those uniforms which are so obvious, but there's what you and I are talking about, which is just, we wear a fedora. I think the way we wear fedoras so naturally is because we've been wearing them since 12 and 9 months. You know what I mean? Or even as a
Yep.
baby, throwing on your Tati's hat all the time. So
Yep.
by the time we're 13, putting it on, we're already mastered it. Where 30-year-olds see it as a trend and they're like, do I cock it this way? Rabbi, did I pinch it right?
Right.
It's just like, try telling somebody, and I'm not good at this, just put it on. Just put it on and forget about it.
That's right.
When I'm in a thrift shop, I don't like mirrors. If you put something on and it fits and you can go like this and you can pretend to hail a cab, you're good. You're good money. You're good money. You don't need a mirror if you truly love. Anyway, sorry, I'll shut up.
No, on the contrary. I was just, you're saying it. I noticed my son, who's now 13, he's wearing a hat. I'm wearing shul, and I'm trying to straighten his hat a little bit because he has the pinch off, and he's like there. And some old guy's yelling at me, "Parrots, let him be a botlin if he wants to be a botlin. What are you moving his hat around?" And I'm like, okay, I'm just trying to teach him young. No, just he's got to wear it himself. It'll.
So true. I never thought of it because I don't have a son. I mean, never thought of it. Like, it's so true. It's like, you're going to tell them to do it like this.
That's I.
They're going to go like this.
I was just trying to get the pinch lined up with his nose. You know what I mean? Because he was all like,
I love how the Rebbe's hat was sideways kind of pinched because that's, I believe, how he took it on and off.
yeah, yeah. It was
Maybe it was
definitely.
Abich but it wasn't perfect.
I think it was not perfect. That's for sure. My up hat started when I noticed that every picture of my great grandfather, my namesake, who I'm named after, had an up hat, and he was a real Chabad Jew, but it was just like he was never going to spend time putting his brim down. Like,
What do you mean by up hat? Like wearing it like you're wearing it, or like
like the brim was up. You know what I mean? Like,
you call that an up hat?
yeah, I call it an up hat, a schlappe, an up
Oh, you
schlappe.
doffed. Oh, so you don't put your brim down.
I mean, it's almost never. And partly was because, like, that's how he put it. He put it on his head. He didn't think about it. And
Right, he
that
didn't
became.
fuss it.
So this is the in between of clothes, right? It's the like, and today everybody's trying to catch up to this, which is like, I'm putting in the attention of what I'm wearing, but I'm wearing it as if I just threw this on in the morning, right? So
It's a good
it's
Italian word. I think it's spretzera, and I never knew how to pronounce it or the true word. It's like that perfectly like. Okay, I'm wearing a turtleneck. I'm not wearing it like this. I'm not
right.
wearing it like this. I'm wearing it with a little attitude. It's supposed to look like I spent 3 hours to put it together. It's so funny with the world. Yeah. Anyway,
But you can tell the difference at this point. Who's been wearing that style for years, and like it's part of them, you know?
right. I think there's a lot. It's like we'll bring it back to hats. That's like there's the people that just wear the hat, and there's the people where the hat wears them.
Yeah,
Just this like there's no
yeah. There's
three thousand dollars to $3,000 hat.
it's the
50 cents.
it's the old Hasidic story they used to tell us in yeshiva that you wear the clothing doesn't wear you. And this is something my father said to us many times as a kid because we'd be like, oh, I don't want to ruin my hat or my jacket. Like it's true, it looks black and white to the world outside, but to us, every ripple is that's all we got. And my father would always be like, you wear the clothing. Stop letting the clothing wear you. and he would say it in
That in
Yiddish.
yeshiva, but I like that.
That was something we grew up with. That was a major idea, and it made me very comfortable with, like, okay, you get the life out of it that you get, and sometimes it gets better with age, and sometimes you didn't get a good enough quality, and you gotta keep looking. But I want to bring it back to the month we're in, because the month we're in, the week we're in, all this stuff. It's the Torah actually has a whole portion on clothing, and that's this week's portion. It's all clothing. So again, I thought of you. And then the heroine of the story of Purim, one of the heroines is Mordechai. So I thought of you. And then the month is about joy, and I'm like, this guy's a joyous guy. I thought of you. And not just because you're my friend and because I'm a New Yorker, so now I'm saying I thought of you. By the third time, it's already one word. But it's a serious, like, convergence of joy and intention, and same thing of, like, you're not, I don't know if you started your life like knowing that you'd be able to have the ability to do what you're doing now, but we came from yeshiva backgrounds, and here you are. In a way, you're like a rabbi of sorts. You spreading your love, your joy to people around there. You're taking control of your opinions about what it is. It's led you to good places overall. And I just, like, take me back a little bit, like how did these steps happen? And I'm not saying my audience wants to copy you as much, but I think that everybody wants to be a little inspired about, like, taking their journey and allowing it to open them up a little bit. And it's done it for you. So what do you think was really there for you?
It's funny. I'm glad you brought up the parsha a little bit, and you don't push Torah down the throat, even though sometimes I wish you would, because I wanted to refer back to my text of when you hit me up or DM saying, like, this is what I like. I want to talk to you about, because for me, all I heard was fashion, parsha. It coincides. I want to talk to you, and I'm like, wow, haven't talked to a guy in a while. I could use a little learning, a little chassidus, a little Torah, whatever we call it. And then the third, I don't know about this connection from the parsha. I know
Yes.
no one ever told me that this parsha talks about fashion. No one ever broke down Torah to me like that. But 13 or however old, I think for me, I mean, this is so silly maybe, but like two older sisters taking pride in, like, how they dress a little bit, like any, this is not sexist, whatever, like a girl does, they take pride in themselves. Maybe it doesn't sound right, but my girl, I liked how my sisters dressed, and I, maybe borrowed a sweater here and there, but maybe it was like, you sisters, maybe they help you comb your hair, maybe they help you beautify. I don't know, but regardless, for me, it was putting on a suit at almost 13 and Friday night being told you're not supposed to do it on the crease. And I was like, what? I don't want to go against anything I learned, but I can't lay these pants just on the bed, and I can't throw them on a hanger. So if I knew about belt loops, I probably just would have hung it up at a belt loops, but I wanted to keep the creases nice, sharp, because my parents weren't dry cleaning it every Friday.
Right.
So I would look around, no one's looking, and I would put it over the hanger almost exactly, or over a chair. Actually, I wouldn't cheat. I'd put it over a chair. But I don't know what that's about, but it really, really, really made me take pride. And then going to yeshiva, and I looked around, everyone, was dry cleaning their white shirts. I didn't know anything about dry cleaning a white shirt and getting a windmill and their titty twisters and someone ruining your shirt. Halavai, I should know about tie-dye. So for me, I get a nice shirt, Perry Ellis, whatever, from Marshalls, TJ Maxx, and clean, and Friday, and just the joy of getting dressed for Shabbos. I could have done that Wednesday if I was so holy. To look forward to, like, wearing something different. I didn't wear a white shirt every single day. I wore a black hat every day, but sometimes chocolate brown. But I wasn't wearing, like, my Shabbos best, and like the idea of getting dressed once a week. Okay, three times, Friday night, Shabbos morning, take a nap, Shabbos afternoon again, Malka, whatever. But it's such a beautiful thing that we do. It's
I have two older sisters, and I'm, like, connecting to that idea that I had an older brother showing me the way of how we dressed. And dads are a little bit set in their ways, and if you're 13 and you care a little bit of how you're dressed, it's quite shocking. Like, the bringing your shirts to the cleaners, like, who's paying for the cleaners? You got to have a hustle then to pay for your cleaning shirts. It's a whole experience that I like. I was like, how come my shirts aren't as nice as everyone's, until I heard the secret that they send it to the cleaners and get them pressed.
extra start.
Yeah, extra starch. So those things were definitely real. You're fiddling with your turtleneck.
Kind of look more
My
presentable.
my dad would not let me wear a turtleneck when I was 13, and it bothered me tremendously. And then I wanted to wear a turtleneck under my shirt, And I just liked the look of it, and I wore it, and he was really upset. That's not for you. I may have stolen from a sister. It's hard to say. It was one of those things. And I wore it like on an eighth grade graduation trip. He saw the pictures. He was really upset. And now I see him in a turtleneck, and I'm like, what the hell? And he's like, well, what do you mean? I fold it up. It's good for a mask. So I like to walk around with my turtleneck and pick it up. So it's you know, it shows you the times change, the fashions changed, and there's these little subtleties. It'll never go back. It'll never be weird for a boy to wear a turtleneck again in the neighborhood
When
because
you were a young bucker, you couldn't pull off those glasses. Come on.
I
Certain age, 13 to 16, where like it's iffy.
I had a tough time.
They're different now.
I had a tough time though then because they when I was 12 was when the rules changed. Prior to that, there's a picture of you with the Rebbe, and you're wearing a striped button down and like a it must be like an olive colored trench coat.
Yeah,
And
so ugly.
and
Fuck.
but the point was everybody else was wearing dark blue or black trench coats, and it was only around that year that they actually set the tone of like, okay, from now on the boys are all only wearing white shirts. People look at the Chabad kids and they think they always were, but it's not true. They weren't like the Williamsburg kids. They were allowed to wear any color. And when I was done with elementary uniform, I was like, I can't wait to be this bacher, this 13-year-old, because I want to fiddle around with my clothes, my glasses, different things. And all of a sudden they were like, no, from now on it's black and white. And it was really intentionally difficult on certain people. Me, I know for sure, and I wanted to go to Israel because Israel hadn't instituted that law yet, and it literally took 3 years. And I got to Israel, and when I came there, they changed the rule. And I came to the guy, and I was like, "Look, I didn't know there was the rule yet, and I didn't come with any white shirts, and I still pulled it off." But yeah, this was something I was thinking about a lot when I was younger, and it came up because I mentioned the Torah portion because this Torah portion focuses on like there's like real colors. Like I'll give you an example. The high priest would wear these like different shades of whites on and pinks on the bottom, and it was because he had to know every shade of skin ailments because some skin ailments in Jewish tradition are just you have a rash, and some represent a spiritual deficiency. And it's very rare, but there's considered 72 shades of this reddish, pinkish, whitish. And the Kohen Gadol had to be knowledgeable in all of them. So his colors represented that pattern. So it wasn't just he was wearing this like apron. The colors of the apron were there to help him test all of the shades. And then there's like, there's literally the blue shades when it comes to the tzitzis mentioned in this week's portion, and they had different color ones. And I think of like all these different colors, and you think about today, religious Jews synonymous with black and white, and it throws you off a little bit, and because it's not really because that's Judaism. It's that way because people are trying to connect to their leaders, and that's two different worlds. It's like you dressing as your favorite icon or fashion symbol versus like this is what I'm wearing to work because it's comfortable. And that's this portion focuses on a ton. And the main colors that stick out are different reds, different blues and purples, and different pinks and whites. And they really each one has a different element of what they're trying to achieve. The purples and the blues are mirroring the sky and our place in the cosmos, and the reds have to do with the concept of like close to death versus close to life, and the pinks and whites, spiritual ailments versus mental ailments. And when you start piecing together these colors and patterns, and it's wools and linens, and it's a whole different. It tells a whole different story of this narrative that clothing is also a bridge to the Creator. And then when you look in Kabbalah and the word clothing is used for all things that you can't see the essence from first glance, you have to see from the outside to the inside, from exterior to interior. It blows your mind that it's using the term clothing because that's the highest analogy for you start from the outside and work your way to the inside. But if it really is real, if there's an actual parallel between the inside and the outside of the person, they're a wholesome person, you actually are you have real depth and spirituality, then your outside clothing is also telling a story, right? Because it permeates it. It's not, you can't just go to the store, put on a fancy suit, and everybody's like, oh, rich guy. It's hard to pull off that look.
To
If
carry
you know,
yourself, right?
so there's some sort of connection, and that's what this portion's really about, that the priests had to wear these clothings that would create this inside outside connection so that it would reflect their job, and they could never forget what their job was to represent the people. And that's an idea. And speak today modern times, religious Jews, every single person walking in Williamsburg with a white shirt and a black coat, everybody calls them rabbi. And and I know that almost none of them are rabbis, meaning like they can't instruct you on anything. They're not leaders, but nevertheless, they're rabbi. That means their clothing is saying that they should be held to a higher standard, like a rabbi is held to a higher standard. If you hear a rabbi doing something wrong, it's pretty upsetting. So I find clothing to be a really spiritual gateway for my job, for what it is. And I try to make your job holy. I know. You sometimes are like, it's just clothing, but why not? You're a chassid deep down. You grew up with this stuff, so you're also doing your work. You're also a form of a leader with this.
All this stuff that you didn't talk about the breastplate.
That's in this
I don't know
portion
if
as
it.
well, but I didn't talk about it.
Okay, okay. I was gonna say because it's like I'm I like jewels. I pierced my ears recently, and it's like I'm thinking that's a place. Not like I'm looking for an excuse. Like, oh, what do you mean? We could wear jewelry. The kind brother wore jewelry. Okay, he didn't pierce his ears. He wore it on his thing. But I'm not the first yid to wear a jewel. So, but all the stuff that you're talking about, the layers, was it all below the waist?
So there was lower levels, higher levels, and then there was like full aprons that went from up and down, connecting them, and belts and different things. It depends. So the high priest wore 8 garments, they were called, and he had like two different pant related garments, and then the rest were either aprons or higher ones and hats, etc. And then the regular priest wore 4. So the idea of these different garments, though, were reflecting 8 is technically the number of transcendence, but the idea is that and they were also of different materials, and
Right, you
so
said silks, linens, wools. It's
yeah.
crazy. Back then, obviously, we weren't around. Like, I'm not saying you could identify like a cop or a Kohen Gadol like right away. Whereas today, there's like undercover cops, dude. There's undercover Hasidim. You and I. Like, somebody could walk by you and be like, "That's not a rabbi. He's in a jogging suit. He's in a sweatsuit. He's in orange. So oh, he has a beard. Okay, but look, he's got funky glasses. And it's like they could say the same thing to me, like, oh, that he's not a chassid. It's like, what are you talking about? But you and I know it's not all about the exterior, even though whatever, but not dumbing down the inside outside because I love that, but it was a little deep for me. But it's so interesting that like, I think when a person works in fashion, even if they're not the photographer on set, they're like doing other jobs on set of the shoot. You're supposed to just wear all black to blend in. And then I saw a photographer or a model on Instagram saying like, shoot day, I'm just gonna wear all khaki to sponge up the energy for my subjects. And maybe it was the photographer saying that. I'm like, wow. I show up to the shoot, bright pink tie dye. Look at me, look at me, look at me. And I don't really want to be that guy. So am I wearing it just to put other people in a good mood? Am I wearing it because like put me in a good mood? I'm wearing. I think about it way too much. I can't say like, oh, I didn't think about what I was going to wear today. Okay, for this I didn't because I forgot. But it's like or is now with a new baby-ish to me. It's like, oh, there's no real time to get dressed. Go into the playground first of all. You don't really need to get dressed. But for me, it's every day I live. Like paparazzi's hanging. My wife likes to joke around. The sartorials is outside the door. Where you think the people are shooting you. No one's looking for me. But now at a time when people are just so, I want to bring even more energy to the streets. But it's funny because, like, you know, when I look in the mirror, I close my eyes. I just think I'm a chassid with a beard, a fedora, and a white shirt and tie, and a white shirt and suit. I don't think of myself like purple, yellow, and I often wish and complain to my friends. I wish I had a uniform. I just want a uniform or a uniform, which is also BS because the minute you told me in Yeshiva, you have to wear this, I don't want a uniform anymore. So
Right.
it's fun. Like it's like maybe someone told you can't wear orange as a rabbi. Look at me, I'm a rabbi and I'm wearing orange. So it's so funny. Like I love to push the needle, push the boundaries, but I do so often walk into a room, figuratively, whatever, like walk down the street, like, and I get shy, I get embarrassed. I'm like, stop looking at me. And it's like, dude, look at you. What do you mean? You're begging to be looked at. So it's so funny with the whole sneeze factor that like, you know,
You're bringing me a lot of love with this, because now that I'm currently in a religious community. I haven't lived amongst my brethren for 15 years. And I moved back in, and now I'm on the way to go to Venice, and I'm dressed in orange, but I'm stopping in the local synagogue in the morning because, like, I'm here, so I may as well do my morning prayers. And everyone's looking at me, and they're like, "Oh, you just want us to stare at you?" And I'm sort of like, "It's not for you. I'm kind of dressed for the other people, and I need to get a little more comfortable with, like, hey, I'm doing it, I'm wearing it." So,
Oh yeah. Also, it's like I dream of this uniform, and I'll get like the perfect pair of black jeans, like I'm wearing right now. They're nice and high waist, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna wear a white shirt, Oxford, every day, 7 days a week. And then I wear a tie one day, and I'm like, I want to wear a tie every day, every day. So it flip flops so much, but I really do like. I don't think suffer, but I do wish like life would be so much easier. There's a dresser behind me full of clothes, and life would be so much easier if, you know, okay, let's talk about just wide rail corduroys, one fabric, one style pant. I just want one. I want it in every shade of every color. I want a few pinks, a few purples, a few blues, yellows, orange, greens, and reds. So that there's never like, oh, I wish I had a pair of red pants to wear. Oh, but also, who needs this crap in their lives? Anyway, sorry to go on and on.
no, yeah, this is the balance. This is the
Put
balance.
me in when the parsha's talking about getting rid of stuff.
you know, there's no question that these guys had their 8 garments, but it was the same one every single day. He had his look. He
As a
he, he
rule,
nailed his look, and it
that's
was
what I'm saying about nailing your look. It's like if someone I would love to see you or a person to say a professional, you know what, Morty? I love you, but like your turtlenecks, yellow's a better color for you, or pink's a better color. Sarah, my wife, I love her, but maybe like your wife, Miriam, she's not like parents. I love you. I'm not gonna tell you those glasses are funny. I love you. If they make you happy, to the world, who cares? But I beg for the real truth. And my wife, gives it to me like I don't want to hear it most of the time, you know. But it's like I long for this uniform, but it's like I don't know what my point was. But
well,
yeah, it's
Miriam's
being but what really fits, what makes us look our best,
right.
what like what really makes us shine, what's our Kohen Gadol uniform? Well, that's given to you, you're ordained. For us, we have and we're an empty sketchboard, whatever it's called, empty palette,
Yeah.
like, we could wear anything we want.
Well, I think the Hasidim who really, dig their clothing, I think they really feel that way. I really think they feel like, listen, they have their look and it's really real, and they're connected to something. It's mission oriented. It's every element of it has a spiritual connotation, whether they're always conscious of it or not. And it has its own beautiful element to it. I would just say that we're lucky to have women then who are just like, you look great, don't worry about it. Like, there's nothing better than that. Imagine somebody was like, wrong color, take it off. You'd be like so self-conscious for like
About
weeks.
to go on a Zoom, we'll talk about
Right.
Parsha.
Yeah. Yeah. So to have like a wife that's like, oh, you look great. I'm like, it's a blessing overall because,
Yeah.
right now we're wearing a lot of active wear. It's been a year of pandemic, so it hasn't been like a jeans type of year for me.
Rigid.
Yeah, it hasn't been rigid at all. And before, when I first moved to Venice, I was wearing really all jeans. I was wearing jeans and jeans and jeans and boots and a hat. And now it's sneakers and activewear. And so to a certain degree, this idea of accumulating too much stuff, and especially somebody like you get stuff, but you're also like given stuff, and you're also like, and like, yeah, I think you're a beautiful guy. You're very giving. Anytime somebody comes by, you're giving. So like I think you just sometimes that could become more of a thing for you of being giving, and same for me. Anytime I'm not 100% sure if what I'm doing is good, I just know that I haven't given enough recently. Like, I just go right back to that because that's my ultimately, I want to be happy all the time, and you're happiest when you're conduit for more joy, not when you yourself are high on your own supply. So anytime you just go back to that moment of like why it is you have what you have. And I think colors do play a part with that. I think the Kohen Gadol wore a lot of colors and all that. So why do the Hasidic Jews wear these two colors, basically black and white? Where did it become like that? So, other than it copying their teachers, there really isn't a source per se. I was reading a book where somebody describes the Rebbe before he became Rebbe, and his description was the guy with the gray suit. No one else wore gray suits.
Art. Art Joseph Beuys there's like a book or a movie or an art piece. The man with the gray suit,
Hmm.
Joseph
So
Beuys.
there it is. He in the 40s, he was wearing a gray suit and a gray hat, and it stuck out because everybody else was wearing other things, and apparently, so there was something there. And there's this story that I think you'll like. It's this guy is looking for a sukkah in Berlin, and he can't find one in his neighborhood. And somebody's like, actually, there's this guy. He's the son-in-law of the Grand Chabad Rebbe, and he has a little sukkah. Maybe he'll let you in. And he finds him, and he gets into a sukkah, and it's like this tiny little sukkah. And he says, I have a question. Why do you guys wear, your coats? What's with the coats? And the Rebbe said, there's different types of material, and he's bringing it from the Torah as well. There is the material of like cotton or linen that you have to like cut vegetation off. Vegetation is a certain type of existence, and you sever it from its source, and you make clothing out of it. So it's one type of clothing. Then you have clothing that's actually super harsh, leather clothing. You have an animal has to be killed in order for you to wear that clothing. So like, you have to be really intentional about what you're doing. It's funny how leather clothing became synonymous with macho or tough or like hunting, and it's like, wow, it really is like you have to take life for this stuff. And then the Rebbe said, when then there's silk. And silk, there's a method of making silk that nothing has to die for the silk to happen. And that's the highest level of clothing is silk. And on Shabbat versus the weekday we're sort of involved with work. We're more like leathers or cottons or linens and wools, etc. But when it comes to Shabbat and we have an elevated soul status or holidays, we want to wear silk, these silk coats, because we want to be way more connected to the source of life. Nothing should be, the least amount should be taken for this experience. And the guy said, well, why black? And the Rebbe said, it doesn't have to be black. Be any color you want. This is the story. That story was like a mind-blowing story because it's clearly not a viral story for the people wearing black and white, but it just says like the clothing has more to it than just the look. You can take it deep too. Same way you could make food spiritual, and it's a lot easier because everybody is more intentional about their food. They eat all the time. You make a blessing, all that stuff. But clothing could be a very intentional experience, and the more intentional it is, the more it's bringing joy, making people happy, telling a story, interconnectedness, etc. I think that all came together in your book. Your Grateful book. It's TieDye. It's people in the Grateful Dead scene, or where we come from, the Grateful Yid scene. And you published it in the last year. How did the book do, by the way?
Well, for some, I think, actually, I forgot because I never wore tie dye really until I landed in San Francisco and I went to Haight Ashbury, the corner where it all began, that
Yeah,
like hippie shop, and I started buying tie dye. I come back to New York, and my wife is like, "You can't wear these brand new liquid blues. You gotta wear the original tees." And I was like, "What do you mean?" She goes, "Look, it's so shiny new." I said, "No, I'll break it in myself." Eventually, she made me get rid of them. She gave me ones when she was a little girl, 15 year. I have this shirt from when she was 15. But and to bring the hippieism, like when I landed in San Francisco and Levi's hired me, I come in with bow ties, suspenders, fedoras, and everybody, menswear was like at its like peak,
yeah,
mustache wax and all that stuff that we're not into, but making yourself look too
yeah.
menswear. My cuff of my jean is exactly 2 3/4 inches, and these are 16-ounce denim. I never washed them. I put them in my freezer to clean them, you know. So I flipped it and I went like total hippie. I was like, I'm in San Francisco. I got to be local, Machtarten, and I got to be
Yeah,
like where I am. And nobody understood it. And then when I came back to New York and Milan and Paris Fashion Week, I started wearing tie dye to these fashion weeks. People were so confused. They weren't wearing suits and ties, but they were wearing dress up clothes. It's like, if you're gonna dress
yeah.
up, I'm gonna dress up. So I went on tour a little bit with Dead and Co. I was never into Grateful Dead. All of a sudden, I heard Dead and Co.'s music. And I'm like, this is Grateful Dead. I love it. I love it. Well, it's not. It's only Bob Weir. Oh, it's Mickey Hart. It doesn't matter. I got really, really, really into it. I got the bug, and I went to a bunch of shows. And the talking about the book is better for me than looking at it, because looking at it, you don't judge a book by its cover. If you look at the cover, you think it's just tie dye. It's not. And I'm not saying you think it is, but I think so many people think it's just tie dye. I really try to capture what they wear at these shows. A lot of it's tie dye because the publisher's smart and the publisher knows what sells. Publisher was doing a book with Maddie Matheson, the chef from
Mm.
Canada, and Maddie said, "You got to come meet my publisher." I'm like, "What, publisher?" He's like, "Yeah, yeah, come have a coffee." And he didn't tell me the publisher wanted to meet me. So I was like, all right, cool. In my mind, I'm like, I want to do a book on Beauty and the Everyday, Beauty and the Everyday Uniform. I got all the photos, regular people in New York, garbage men. So, I get there. And within 2 seconds, the publisher's like, oh man, I'm a big deadhead. I love your photos of the dead. I'm like, oh, so you see my Instagram. Okay, cool. Like, you don't really know what I'm about, but you see me, we became friendly and he pushed me in the right way. And I delivered, a grip of photos and it got me out of the house for a couple of weeks. That was fun to travel a little bit and pretend that I was on tour, be like the shliach on tour,
Right.
and took a ton of photos, made a book. I have enough to make a bunch more volumes. But I mixed in a couple of street shots, but mostly it's people on tour, and 50-year-old guys wearing show t-shirts that they wore in the '80s to see Jerry Garcia, and then people with their grandkids, all the different generations going, fathers and sons, mothers and daughters, grandparents, babies. I saw babies. I had the excuse of going to a show in Mexico for 3 days called Playing in the Sand, and I didn't understand what it meant. You momish, you could bring your hotel slippers and your bathrobe from the room to the sand and watch and lay in the sand and watch the show. Or if you're wanting to trip out like me, you just look at the water. You could hear the music, but your momish, your feet are in the
Yeah.
water during the show. And I went to the back because I don't like to be in the middle of the whole thing. I'm afraid I'll have to go piss or I'll bug out. I like to be in the outskirts, like to just have in and out access, easy access. And I saw families with little babies with the head things, laying, taking naps. It was probably 10 o'clock at night, taking a nap, and watching Dead and Co. And so I saw so many different ages, and it's cute to see like the kids with their brand new Urban Outfitter, Grateful Dead shirts with the fancy Jordans. They don't know one song, but they're into it, which is a beautiful thing. The real Deadheads, they don't care how you got there as long as you're on the bus. It's like it's a beautiful thing. It's like
Well, this is what we're getting to, that they're telling a story with the clothing, with their music, with their whole
for
experience.
sure.
And so to a certain degree, it sort of fits in with, like, I grew up Hasidim. It's also telling a story and telling like that. And tie-dye, I have a lot of tie-dye, was all made by my daughters. They went tie-dye crazy the last 2 years. And my sister was living here. So like they literally emptied my closet, everything white. They just,
Beautiful.
whatever was white, they took and tie-dyed, pajamas.
That's why you're wearing your suits.
That's exactly.
This you can't mess up.
Listen,
It's true. I love tie dye because you didn't ask me, but it's like it takes you places. You look at it and it's like, I don't care about psychedelics. I'm not microdosing, to be honest. Yeah, I've had my share of this, that, the other, but like I'm pretty. I'm saying I'm not the most straightforward guy, but like I try to be like I'm not as hippy dippy as I'd like to think I am. But I like it because it's like you go to the meeting and that guy's wearing a white Oxford shirt. Okay, it's fashion. And then I show up in this. It's like it's distracting in a fun way, but it's not perfect. We're all snowflakes. It's
so now let's take us out. Like, how are we going to get out of this pandemic mentality? What's going to be next as far as Mordechai goes, as far as fashion? Like, where are we
you
going?
know. So I've been hearing a little bit, reading a little bit, both lies, headlines, whatever. Like it's going to be like the Roaring Twenties or whatever. Like when this is over, people are going to be dying to go out with ball gowns. Okay, for a day or two, a week, a month, a year, yeah, people are going to be, getting dressed. But I do not know. I don't want to sit here and say I can't predict or I'm going to predict. But look, with us spreading color and joyful clothing and people taking interest in sustainability, in longevity. I hate garbage. I hate garbage. Okay, maybe the shirt's $11, so I'm happy if I got 12 uses out of it. But I'd rather pure cotton. I'd rather I'll pay money. I'll pay more money if there's mothballs in the cashmere sweater because it's true, tried and tested. It's lived in. It's got the maple syrup stain from somebody else's breakfast. These are important. I didn't pay for the breakfast. I paid for the sweater. But
Right.
I don't know what's coming. I don't want to get rid of any more clothes. But I think for happy times when hopefully we're still careful with each other's space, but maybe it's a little bit more. People are telling me now in the playground, they're like, these kids, it's so sad. They're not going to learn facial expression or whatever. And I'm like, looking at them, I'm like, I'm making faces at my daughter every second that I'm not wearing a mask. She knows facial expression. You know what I mean? So
Well, joy is going to take us out of it for sure. Like, people are just going to want to have to be committed to being happy, and I think the dress is going to morph because work is going to be different. A lot of places aren't opening as quickly. The office place is not going to be the
They're
same.
more relaxed, right?
Huge companies are starting with the idea we may only do 2 days a week, maybe only 1 day a week, maybe not all departments, like, so that alone is going to shift people's wardrobes, of like
High
what.
heels, less teleporting, right? It's like I'm wearing a suit and tie up top. You don't know if I'm wearing shorts below, right?
We're not talking about
Boom.
like women's clothing today, but I have so many questions about that. Like, is so much of their clothing developed because of like, trying to get the man's attention, and that age is clearly over as well. And there's so many style trends, and it's going to affect us Hasidic Jews too, because a lot of people, especially Hasidic Jews, don't know that prior to World War II, you see some black and whites and they're like, oh yeah, Chassidim look that way, but it's not true. I saw pictures of my grandmother, who lived in Sweden, and was very tznius and very modest, but was wearing pants. I'm not saying we're going to go to wearing pants, but like, it didn't stick out as something irregular at the time. In other words, as fashion trends change, Jews are focused on modesty and identity, and spiritual journey in what they're wearing and what they're doing, way more than exactly the look. And Chabad culture, where I'm from, has always been a little more forward thinking with that. The glasses were always a little sharper, the suits were always a little louder. They were always willing to go there, and it was like sort of fed off, like the Rebbe himself was like, the Rebbe was not judging people by their clothing as much. Obviously, he doesn't want us to live like our clothing first, but nevertheless, there was leeway to open that door. Chabad girls were always dressed really well, and there was a certain identity with that. And I'm interested to see where it goes, because I think it will parallel, for me, in my interest, the spiritual journey, the joy journey. People have such a doom and gloom. Like, the news is all about the world's falling apart, and movies are all about talking about the human emotion of things falling apart. And I'm like, well, I'm a rabbi. I'm supposed to be your positive agent. I'm here to remind you that things are going to work out. That's my job. And in Jewish tradition, there's no faith. That's dogmatic. There's trust. We trust things are going to happen. So I'm always trying to get people to switch the word from faith to trust, like, because it's a psychological different experience. And I bright orange. Let's get back to that. That's it. Tie dye. It's it. It's bigger stories going on. If I was living in New York, maybe I'd wear it a little differently. But nevertheless, in California, this to me the way in the future.
It's like you might have Birkenstocks on today. You might have sneakers. Okay, California's a little more Birkenstock friendly. The air is better, whatever. You're not in the subway. You're not getting broken bottles in the street. But I can't help but think how, like you said, Lubavitch has changed. Has been more. They've moved with the times more and quicker, more than other Swedish uniforms, for sure.
Yeah.
Like with the sizes of the brims and the colors of the fedoras. Forget everything else. Glasses and suits, for sure. Tighter pants and crown heights. But not to be negative, but with the New York Post showing like, oh, wedding of thousands of Chassidim, I actually don't want to look like a black and white Chassid, because if that's what someone's first conclusion is going to be, like, oh, he's one of those, I'd rather them. My name's Mordechai Rubinstein. I don't hide from it. I'd rather them judge me by my clothes and then say, oh, he's a Jew, he's cool. It's like, oh, this rabbi, he's a rabbi, he's wearing orange. It's like, it's cool to me that we're different. I don't know how else to say it. Like, I don't want to scream different, but I do.
But you don't have a choice, because you can't be.
No, but I guess also,
Do
like,
you want to be seen?
a good trend.
Do you want to be seen ultimately as different, even if it's uncomfortable, than being seen as somebody else that isn't you at all?
Right.
That's really the choices we have at this point. So, I got to do it. Got to do it. Well, listen, man.
We're setting a good example,
I hope so. I hope so.
because you have me on the phone and I look up to you, and you're not hiding. You're not, Reverend on Instagram, hurts much. And you're the same person you are here. And I try to be the same person I am on Kingston. As you actually, I walked on Kingston Avenue last week in Crown Heights. We don't need to talk about it too much. But 3 people at separate times in the day were like, you're a week early for Purim. And it didn't hit me. Each time it didn't hit me like, oh, okay, I get it. I'm wearing a purple beret,
Right.
It's just so funny how it's like that. Every time I visit Crown Heights, I want to blend in. I don't know about you. It's impossible. It's impossible. I can't blend in anywhere, and I want to. I really want to.
Well, don't blend in. Think about it this way: you're flying down North Point. You just passed the Patagonia store on the left in San Francisco. You're on your
770.
bike, right? The 770 Patagonia building, and you're flying down towards Levi's. And as you pass around the wharf, you see some Chassidim jumping out of the freezing cold water mikveh, and you yell out Chassidim. That's the type of stuff that, like, you are. And
That
if you
will
were,
keep the world going.
yeah, you got to keep yelling out your thing, and keep bringing your energy, man, because it's infectious, and that's what people love about you. They can say it's the clothing and the trends and the style, but it's also the energy you bring, the joy you bring, and the whole it says in the future when Mashiach comes that the whole future is got, like, a lot of holidays will disappear. Oh yeah,
Most
look at that Nike
definitely.
yarmulke. That when Mashiach comes, all holidays will disappear except Purim. Whoa, dude, that's right there.
Lo yichrav, lo yishtach.
That's right, Mordechai, the purple and teal going on. Is that a polo? You love it, Shlomo. There we have it, and the Nike then. That's perfect. The green velvet, right? It's
Yeah,
perfect.
green velvet. Bought it in Israel. Never wore it.
Yeah,
It's a
matches what
size
you're wearing.
5. I should have gotten a size 6 or 7. Yarmulkes don't work with hair. I have a major problem with that.
It's
That's
tough.
why I
It's
started
tough.
wearing the beret. A fedora and a yarmulke don't work. Fedora with long hair, I think, is so like. I don't want to mention the name. One guy used to do that for bring-ins all the time.
What, with the beret?
No, with long hair, with a ponytail, with
Yeah,
a
yeah, yeah,
fedora.
yeah.
I never understood it, but it was cool. The beret, I took it upon myself. I'm a photographer, so why wear hats that get in the way of the lens? The
Right.
beret is perfect, but really the beret was about going to 770 for me. I found it to be the perfect hat. That's
Hmm.
not a cap. That's not a hat.
Well, before you, there was the famous Professor Broniver, always wore the beret, and he was a real figure because he brought something new to Chabad as well. He brought, like, deep into mathematics and astrophysics and all types of, like, things to Chabad, and the Rebbe really appreciated him. And he wore a beret, and there you go, looks good. You're saying that the hair doesn't let it sit, doesn't let the
It
yarmulke
doesn't
sit right.
exactly. If you do it like this, it's kind of like, what's this? What's this? What's this? Cut the chip off. If you put your hair under it, we're not like Middle Eastern or I forgot, Sephardi, where you like clip it
Then you
on the
got to clip
side.
it in. You got to clip it.
Nah, then after half hour, the hair hurts over here. So then, if you get a short haircut, it's the only way to do it.
Yeah, or you got to go for, like, two size up on the yarmulke. You got to get bigger,
That's what I need. That's what I wish I
like the
got.
big one that.
Nana Nachman, huge without Nana Nachman around it, just a big royal red yarmulke. The same store that had this had them. And this is a 5. I should have gotten like a 7.
It's an older look. I don't remember guys wearing the big velvet yarmulkes since way back, but it looked super cool then. They would wear it and it would stick out of their fedoras like this. They had that look where it would, like.
And it would finish the hat side. Exactly. My
Right.
hats were always big on me, so it's perfect because,
Yeah.
it's like
That's a
it's a
lost
paper
look.
towel.
That's a
It
lost
is.
look. That's a good
It
one.
is.
Well, so
So
Mordechai,
Shmuley Metzger, somebody's posting old 770 pics lately that are just beautiful.
they are. Well, I think there was also an unassuming nature to life pre-social media,
Oh
pre
yeah. Oh
pre
yeah.
the intensity of, like, people actually, like, wearing clothes, and that's not going away.
Your father's wearing turtlenecks now. I mean,
Right? It's over. We're ready for the future. You know, Listen, they say when Mashiach comes, the clothing, which we described earlier as the exterior, is going to be more important than interior. Right now, the inside is what counts. But when Mashiach comes, it's going to be the outside, because the whole concept of Mashiach in Judaism is not like Armageddon, or like everything switches and it's a different world. It's We see the energy in the outside as well. Right now, we don't see it. We Everything's like a vessel for the energy on the inside. The change of the future is that the outside, we can see actually tells the story. So it is to see what you're doing in the new light. If you're looking for that, because you see it so well anyways, see what you're doing as a Mashiach thing. Like, it's like you're not superficial about the outside. On the contrary, anything that's too superficial, you couldn't have more fun laughing at it. So the idea that you're taking the outside and, like, there's the story itself. It now is an energy that you're putting on. It's not just containing you, but it itself has something. That's the future. That's what the we call it in Hebrew, it would be where the kalim, which means the vessels, are just as important as the light inside. And right now we can't see it. Right now the body is whatever, and the soul is where it's at. And then the body is the superficial part. But imagine the body was like, wow, look at this vessel can actually identify the cosmos. It can identify mysticism, it can identify spirituality, it can identify love. I posted the other day on my Instagram, like, let's not forget that it's a gift that we could love others more than ourselves. Like, people talk about how, like, oh, it's a problem that people are actually do a lot of good out there, but then for themselves they don't take care of themselves. I'm like, it's actually not good or bad. It's a gift. Usually an animal can only think about itself. It's all for its own survival. The idea that we could be for something else is the vessel, is the exterior beginning to realize that it itself is a conduit for something larger. And that's what the Purim holiday is, man. That's why it's important. It's my birthday too, Purim. So it's like fits right in.
Happy almost birthday.
Yeah, coming up.
It was Wednesday night.
It's Thursday night. It was Purim turning into Shushan Purim. That's my story.
Shushan.
Mordechai, I love you. Thanks for coming on
to throwing the word shoe in.
He's throwing shoe. That's thanks for coming on the Rabbi Paris podcast.
Thanks for having me. I'm sorry 17 minutes late.
And no, you're the best, and you're welcome on anytime. Let's do it again. Yeah, we'll go spiritual again, and we'll do it post when the world opens up, and you'll tell us what's really going on out there. Nobody does the streets like you do. So happy Purim.
I should thank our sponsors because I saw you wearing the Nike.
Right, this is it right now. I listen, that's my next level is when Nike starts dressing this rabbi. That's it. That's when I made it. That's our screen right there. There we go. Okay. Thanks for tuning in.